Good morning. I'd like to call to order our House Housing Committee hearing for Wednesday, March 18th. We are on our 9 a.m. agenda and it's 9:05 a.m. in conference room 430. Sorry for the late start. We had some tech difficulties and some last minute changes here. But thanks for bearing with us. We will be instituting a 2-minute time limit to allow as many people as possible to testify here. So please keep your testimony within 2 minutes. Because morning hearings must adjourn prior to the noon floor session, it's possible that not all testifiers may have the opportunity to testify. Please, in that event, know that your written testimony will be considered by the committee. I don't think we're gonna get to that point, but just be aware. Please, if you're on Zoom, keep yourself muted and your video off while waiting to testify, and after your testimony is complete. The Zoom chat function will allow you to chat with the technical staff only. Please use the chat only for technical issues. If you're disconnected unexpectedly, you may attempt to rejoin the meeting, and please note that the House is not responsible for any bad internet connections on the testifier's end. And please avoid using any trademarked or copyrighted images, and always please refrain from profanity or uncivil behavior. Such behavior may be grounds for removal from the hearing without the ability to rejoin. Alright, we will dive right into our agenda. The first item on the agenda is SB 2190 SD2 related to inclusionary zoning. Vice Chair for the testimony.
HHFDC in support.
Morning Chair, Vice Chair, HSG stand on his testimony in support.
Thank you. Hawaii YIMBY in support. Grassroots Institute of Hawaii in support.
Aloha Chair, Vice Chair, Ted Cavallis, Grassroots Institute will stand on our written testimony in support.
Thank you. Housing Hawaii's Future in support.
Aloha, Perry Airosmith, Housing Hawaii's Future, stand on our testimony in support. Thank you.
Thank you. Office of Hawaiian Affairs in opposition on Zoom.
Present.
Not present.
They are present.
Oh, present.
They just started.
OHA. Okay, we'll come back to OHA. Hawaii Appleseed Center for Law and Economic Justice in support. Not present. Aloha Independent Living Hawaii in opposition. 2 individuals in opposition and 1 in support. OHA, are you connected? She's still on.
I'll try verbally on that.
Anyone online or in person other than OHA wishing to testify on SB 2190 SC2? Seeing none. OHA.
No message back.
No, they.
Alright, members, any questions? Seeing none. Next item on the agenda is SB 2338 SD1 related to housing. Vice Chair for the testimony.
Hawaii Public Housing Authority with comment.
HPHA stands on its testimony comment.
Thank you. Department of the Attorney General with comment.
Good morning, Chair, Vice Chair, Member, Deputy Attorney General Clement Orbank. Just would like to highlight a couple of things from our written testimony, specifically in regard to the amendment which provides HHFDC and HPHA with autonomy in personnel matters. We would recommend clarifying the scope of that autonomy, including in how it interacts with civil service provisions of Chapter 76, as well as applicable collective bargaining requirements under Chapter 89 of the Hawaii Revised Statutes. And in regard to the limit of employment contracts, we recommend that the provision be removed, but specifically if the committee would like to keep the provision in, we recommend that the phrase unless approved by the legislature by concurrent resolution be removed to avoid any separation of power issues. Thank you, and I'll be available for any questions.
Thank you. HHFDC with comment?
Good morning, Chair, Vice Chair. We stand on our testimony in support and with comments. I believe that the comments that we offer address the concerns by the Department of the Attorney General.
Thank you. And one individual in support. Anyone online or in person wishing to testify on SB 2338 SD1? Seeing none, Chair.
Members, any questions? I have a question for the Attorney General. If we remove the language that allows the legislature to provide for extended contracts via resolution, would HHFDC or HPHA boards have the authority to still renew a contract after the contract period ends?
Yes, the contracts are currently allowed, and if you just remove that portion, it would be allowed to enter into contracts with 2-year limit at the time.
So we wouldn't need to clarify that the respective boards have the authority to renew a contract. They can do a 2-year contract and then renew that contract after 2 years.
That's correct.
Thank you. Members, any further questions? Alright, seeing none, next item on the agenda is SB 2424 SD1 related to the Hawaii Housing Finance and Development Corporation. Vice Chair for the testimony.
HHFDC in support?
Stand on our testimony in support.
Thank you. Hawaii Community Foundation in support. Holomua Collaborative in support.
Richard?
Oh, morning, Josh.
Good morning.
Chair, Vice Chair, committee members, thanks so much. We do support this. I won't go through, of course, all of our testimony, just a couple of things I'll note. Our related organization, Holomua Collective, by the way, Josh Wish for Holomua Collaborative, did a survey last year and it underscored the depth of the challenge that we've got with people trying to stick around. And we noted that about 75% of people said yes or maybe when asked if they'd leave for a less expensive state. And most of those people said that the reason was housing costs. And that's the reason that we're supporting a bill like this, which is really laser focused on trying to create new housing dedicated for the local workforce by making it easier for them to go through some of the processes to get housing that's put together by HHFDC, and also to make sure that just because someone has once purchased an HHFDC property doesn't mean they never can again. This really incentivizes people being able to go up the housing ladder and stay in Hawaii as their living arrangements change. So thanks so much for hearing this. We are strongly in support and available for any questions.
Thank you. Title Guarantee of Hawaii, HPM Supply, Mana Up, AIO, and Tori Richards in support. Hawaii Yimby in support. Church of the Crossroads in support. Housing Hawaii's Future in support.
We stand on our testimony in support. Thank you.
Thank you. Kobayashi Group in support. Hawaii Appleseed Center for Law and Economic Justice in support. AARP Hawaii in support. Limby Hawaii in opposition. Dowling Company in support.
We'll stand on our written testimony, thank you.
Thank you. And one individual in support. Anyone online or in person wishing to testify on SB 2424 SD1? Seeing none, Chair.
Members, any questions? I have a question for Dean HHFDC. Good morning. So we've heard some about the difficulties in the current definition of qualified resident and how it makes it difficult for somebody to move up the housing ladder. And honestly, the only real opposition on this bill is in relation to changing the definition of qualified resident. Could you walk us through how the current definition makes it difficult to move up the housing ladder, what that actually means, and what the changes would allow for?
Under the current definition of qualified resident, person who owns some majority interest in real property is disqualified from purchasing a unit that is assisted by HHFDC's programs. So for example, someone had bought a unit in one of our projects earlier. They all still own that unit. They could not buy a larger unit, say, while they still own that unit. So what they would have to do is basically they have to sell that unit before they can purchase the new unit. And in practical terms, that's very difficult to do. So this bill attempts to allow people to move up the housing ladder, whereby if you bought a HHFTC assisted unit in the past, you could still purchase another assisted unit if your housing needs change. So this is a different approach, very different approach to our programs, but we support it because we see that this really could incentivize developers to provide more housing, and that really is what we need now, just more housing to be built in general.
Thank you. Members, further questions? Alright, thank you. Next on the agenda is SB 2356 relating to parking. Vice Chair for the testimony.
Department of Land and Natural Resources in support. Office of Planning and Sustainable Development in support.
Aloha, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee, Diana Senes with the Office of Planning and Sustainable Development. We stand on a written testimony in support. No questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Unite Here Local 5 in opposition. Hawaii Appleseed Center for Law and Economic Justice in support. Not present. Hawaii Realtors in support.
We stand on our testimony in support.
Thank you. Oahu Metropolitan Planning Organization in support. Avalon Development Company in support on Zoom.
Not present.
Aloha, Chair, Vice Chair, and members of the committee. We stand on our written testimony in support. We think this bill is well written and well targeted. We urge you to pass it. Thank you.
Thank you. Chamber of Commerce Hawaii in support. Hawaii Bicycling League in support. Hawaii YIMBY in support. Grassroots Institute of Hawaii in support.
Aloha, Ted Kapalas with Grassroots Institute will stand on our written testimony in support.
Thank you. Housing Hawaii's Future in support.
Aloha, we stand on our testimony in support. Thank you.
Thank you. Aloha Independent Living Hawaii in support. AARP Hawaii in support. Holomua Collaborative in support.
Push for Holomua will stand on our testimony support. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Councilmember Hodgins in support. Councilmember Bolosan in support. Dale Vanderbrink, an individual in support. In person. Not present. And 4 individuals in support. Anyone online or in person wishing to testify on SB 2356 SD1? Seeing none.
Members, any questions? Seeing none, next item is SB 2981 relating to land use. Vice Chair for the testimony.
Office of Planning and Sustainable Development in support.
LPSD stands on its written testimony in support. Thank you.
Thank you. Unite Here Local 5 in opposition. Hawaii Appleseed Center for Law and Economic Justice in support. Ulupono Initiative in support. Hawaii Realtors in support.
Thank you. We stand on our testimony in support.
Thank you. Hawaii YIMBY in support. Oahu Metropolitan Planning Organization in support. Avalon Development Company in support.
Aloha, we stand on our written testimony in support. Thank you.
Thank you. Chamber of Commerce Hawaii in support. Hawaii Bicycling League in support. Grassroots Institute of Hawaii in support.
Aloha, we stand on our written testimony in support.
Thank you. Housing Hawaii's Future in support.
Yes, we stand on our testimony in strong support. Thank you.
Thank you. Aloha Independent Living Hawaii in support. AARP Hawaii in support. Holomua Collaborative in support.
Josh for Holomua will stand on our testimony in support. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Narret Hawaii in support. Housing Hawaii's Future, Jeff Laupola in support. Councilmember Uu Hodgins in support. And individual Dale Vanderbrink in support in person. And 67 individuals in support of this measure. Anyone online or in person wishing to testify on SB 2981? Seeing none, Chair.
Members, any questions? Seeing none. SB 3028 SD2 related to property conveyance. Vice Chair for the testimony.
Office of Planning and Sustainable Development in support. Thank you. Department of Taxation with comment.
The tax department will stand on its testimony with comments. Thank you.
Thank you. DLNR in support.
Aloha Department has the written testimony in support and we're here for questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Hawaii Realtors in opposition.
Thank you. We stand on our testimony.
Thank you. Avalon Development in opposition.
Aloha, we stand on our written testimony in opposition.
Thank you. Hawaii Yimby in support. Church of the Crossroads in support. Catholic Charities Hawaii in support.
Good morning, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. I'm Betty Lou Larson with Catholic Charities Hawaii. We strongly support this bill. We are asking for 3 amendments, which are in a way similar to the bill on the conveyance section you heard before, each bill 2029. But first of all, we are asking that 10% of this fund be allocated to a new homeless services special fund. And on page 2 of our testimony, we explained that this is a really time at risk. The federal government has not renewed the second year of the federal funding. This could put 580 units of permanent supportive housing at risk, as well as other programs. And so ongoing, we know that ending homelessness is a top street priority. We feel there is a need for dedicated funding because services are the infrastructure. Just like we need it for housing, we need to really make a difference and to end homelessness. Secondly, we are asking, although it's not in this bill, that 30% of the revenues go to Department of Hawaiian Homelands for the housing needs of Native Hawaiians. We feel this is really an obligation of the state, and it's really important to continue their process and to continue their ability to create housing for Native Hawaiians. Thirdly, in the other bill, it reduces the allocation to the rental housing revolving fund. It has been 50% for many years, reduces it to 20%. With the added revenues, we're asking it be at least a minimum of 30% to the rental housing revolving fund. This fund, of course, is the major fund that is creating housing for the last 25 years. It's created thousands of units, and there's only increasing demand for it. So we just ask that there are many long-term needs of the state, but we ask you to balance the needs for housing, rental housing particularly, with the other needs that will be discussed in this bill as it moves forward. So we urge you to pass this bill with these amendments. Thank you.
Thank you. Tax Foundation of Hawaii with comments on Zoom.
Thank you, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. Tom Yamachika from Tax Foundation of Hawaii. We think that the idea of restructuring the conveyance tax rates to a marginal rate system, as is done for income tax, that's a good idea. We do have some issue with rates that are several times what they are now. Although it's impossible to tell from this bill because it's filled with blanks. We also do not support the idea of having what some testifiers call a dedicated funding source. We think the legislature has to has the or should be retaining control of dispositions of the tax monies through its oversight function as it customarily does. Abdicating the oversight function by giving it to a special fund, we think is not a good idea. Happy to answer any questions. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you. Hawaii Children's Action Network speaks in support.
Aloha Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. I'm Nicole Wu from Hawaii Children's Action Network Speaks. We support this bill. As you all know, our state cannot tax property directly, so we're missing out on a lot of revenue from our beautiful luxury multi-million-dollar properties. A lot of those owners are from out of state, so they don't pay personal income tax either. So really getting at the sales tax for these luxury properties is the way to sort of get these very fortunate people who benefit from our beautiful state to pay into the system. The way the bill originally was, it actually lowered the conveyance tax for lower value properties, giving a break to people who can't afford to pay more, and then it raises for those at the top, and that seems to make a lot of sense to us. We have looked at HB 2049, and it has a different allocation for the revenues in section 4 of it. So we respectfully request that language be inserted into this bill to be able to take the chance to address some of the state's obligations to the Department of Hawaiian Homelands. Thank you for hearing my testimony. Please pass this bill.
Thank you. Hawaii Public Health Institute in support. Indivisible Hawaii in support.
Good morning, Chair, Vice Chair, and members of the committee. My name is Young Yovali, and I'm here representing Indivisible. We are in support of this bill with a similar request of using the language from HB 2049, although it's revenue allocation. I know Tax Foundation had concerns about it, but I think it's very important that we meet the obligation. So thank you for considering. Mahalo.
Thank you. Grassroots Institute of Hawaii in opposition.
Aloha, Ted Kafalas with Grassroots Institute. We'll stand on our written testimony in opposition.
Thank you. NIOP Hawaii in opposition.
We stand on our testimony in opposition.
Thank you. Hawaii Appleseed Center for Law and Economic Justice in support. And 18 individuals in support of this measure. Anyone online or in person wishing to testify on SB 3028 SD2? Seeing that, Chair.
Members, any questions? Rep. Hawkeye.
For Mr. Yamachika.
Alright.
Hi, aloha, Mr. Yamachika. In your testimony, you pointed towards Mason manuals. Can you elaborate a little bit on that? Because you did mention in your testimony just not about blanks in the bill.
Yes, Representative. Mason's legislative manual is the parliamentary resource that many state legislatures use, including this one, and it says when proposals containing blanks are introduced, these must be filled before other motions to amend are entertained. That's a quote from the manual. We note that some committees like to create blanks in bills before moving them forward. We don't think this is proper. That's why we had raised that objection.
Okay, thank you for your clarification. Thank you.
Members, further questions? I have a question for DLNR.
Good morning, David Penn for DLNR.
Hi, good morning,
And
David.
we also have Jenna from the Na'alahele program.
Okay, I guess two questions. First, you into Na'alahele. So would this fund the Na'alahele program? Is this what it's related to in this subsection?
Well, the way it's written now, it would accommodate the funding, but it doesn't provide any funding
Yeah,
right now.
yeah, if the blanks are filled in, so the Land and Trails Access Program is synonymous with all the LA program, okay. And then currently, where is funding coming from for the program?
There's a number of different sources of funding. Maybe Jenna can come up. She's the acting manager for Na'Alahelei.
Thank you. Hi, good morning. Sorry, trails are generally outside of the purview of my own subject matter here, so I'm more curious on what the existing funding sources are and honestly what the needs are. And if this were to pass as we contemplate an allocation, what that allocation should be. So if you don't mind just maybe walking through where the current funding is.
Yeah, so our current funding, we just recently received a $2 million general funds budget within the last couple of years. We have some federal grants from the Recreational Trails Program. We also are grant funded from some federal grants through the Rescue, let me get my American Rescue Plan Funding Act and Economic Development Administration. So this would be supplemental funding for us, yeah. And so we probably have about $50 million of backlog projects that we would like to accomplish.
Okay, 50?
About 50 million, so we have a wish list that's pretty long. And so a lot of this would go to just supplementally helping repair and maintain some of our trail systems, infrastructures, bridges, parking lots, expansion, management plans.
Okay, and so I think the description might be a little misleading here and we should amend it, which we can do, but it says to fund land acquisition for the Hawaii Statewide Trail and Access Program, but then the text of the bill, it's much broader than just acquisition. It seems like it would allow you guys also to use it for acquisition, but it certainly be maintenance, et cetera.
Yeah, and we could do land acquisition as well. We do have some things that we would like to do, like purchase parking areas, acquisition of hiking trails on private lands and things like that.
And what would a meaningful contribution from the conveyance tax be for you folks?
You know what, I would have to do some of the numbers on that, so I could get back to you with that answer.
Thank you, appreciate it. Representative Cochran.
Was Lindsay Garcia's here?
Yeah, she is.
Is that right? Sorry, I had a question. Hi. Sorry to drag you out from in the back there. Morning. Thank you. So in your testimony, you mentioned historically the conveyance tax was designed to cover administrative costs, I guess for doe tax.
Yes.
And I was told that it was to disincentivize like outside investment buyers for our lands. So do you know about that point? Why it was created in the first place?
My understanding is that the conveyance tax was originally created to help pay for the administrative costs of running doe tax, but perhaps doe tax could better explain the history of that.
Okay, all right, I just thought maybe you knew a little bit more in the investments of outside versus our local residents, so.
Thank you, Rep.
Okay, all right, thanks.
Rep. Cochran, do you want to ask DOTAX the same question?
The DOTAX is here?
Yes.
Oh, yes, please. Hi,
I'm not familiar with the history of the conveyance
Oh,
tax. I don't know.
okay, all right. That's all right, I mean, I'll just follow up offline then and can send to the committee with more information, or if you know, Chair.
You know, you might wanna, Tom, the Tax Foundation has said similar things in their
Yamachika?
testimony, if you wanna ask them.
Oh, yeah, Mr. Yamachika, are you still here?
Yes, I am.
Hi, my question was about the original purpose for the conveyance taxation. Do you have a historical knowledge about that?
Yes, and we have recounted some of that in our testimony. Basically, the conveyance tax was originally enacted while the state was still running the property tax system. They needed to have some way of figuring out what the values were because those didn't have to be reported on the conveyances. So they adopted a relatively modest tax that allowed them to keep track of property values because they had to be declared for tax purposes. And the tax rate at the time was 5 cents per $100, 5 cents per $1,000.
Okay, and sorry, a follow-up, Chair. Mr. Yamachika, so and then in with your best knowledge, the appropriations from such tax were utilized for, do you recall, in particular?
I believe when it was first enacted, it was a general fund realization, so it wasn't
No dedicated funding per se.
no, I think the dedicated funding by a special funds was a much more recent innovation.
Okay, all right, thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Tom. Cochran, any further questions?
No, thank you.
Members, any additional questions? Alright, next item on the agenda is SB 3187 SD2 relating to offsite construction. Vice Chair for the testimony.
Office of Planning and Sustainable Development in support.
LPSD stands on written testimony and support. Thank you.
Thank you. Plumbers and Fitters, Local 675 in support. Not present. AIA Hawaii State Council in support. And 2 individuals in support. Anyone online or in person wishing to testify on SB 3187 SD2? Seeing none, Chair.
Members, any questions?
Yes, Chair.
Representative Cochran.
For OPSD, Maureen, hi, thanks for being here. In your testimony, you said that you folks preferred the HB 2606.
Yes.
Can you explain?
It's because the House version took an amendment from the plumbers union that just changed some of the language to stipulate that they're building housing according to HRS regulations and for housing in Hawaii.
Okay, all right. Thanks, just want a little more clarification.
Yeah, no problem, thank you.
Thanks. Actually, I have a follow-up question on that. I appreciate the proposed amendment. Is that not implied though, like within the scope of the working group, that this would be under Hawaii State Building Codes?
Yes, but it's always good to give a little bit more clarification so that they know that these are for factories for to be built in Hawaii to build housing for Hawaiians.
So you're saying the clarification then is that the offsite certification should only apply to factories in Hawaii and not offsite out of state?
Yes, because we don't want to create an offsite construction program that outsources all of the construction and possibly puts local labor at risk.
Okay. And this wasn't brought up in your folks' testimony, but do you have so the bill right now limits the offsite certification, the scope of the working group to offsite certification for single family homes under 1,200 square feet. That seems really small. Do you have a stance on the rationale for being that small and whether that should go up?
OPSD doesn't have a specific stance on that. It may be better to start with a smaller scope and to really nail that down and to make it easier for the State Building Code Council to come up with its proposals. But I do think that it would be beneficial for it to eventually be expanded to multifamily housing and modular housing and possibly 1 to 5 story condos. I know in Singapore they do it on a much larger scale, but just figuring out what would work for Hawaii. Thanks.
Members, further questions? Seeing none, SB 2378 SD2 related to housing, Vice Chair for the testimony.
American Council of Engineering in support.
Chair, Vice Chair, and committee members, my name is Janice Marsters. I'm representing the American Council of Engineering Companies. This bill is very important to us and our industry. We found that after Act 295 passed last year to encourage expedited permitting for housing, that our insurance representatives alerted to us to uninsurable language in the bill. 2 points I want to make. The House version of this bill has gone through the House, received testimony from the American Institute of Architects and professional liability insurers that they recommended some additional changes that are reflected in House Bill 1721 HD2, and we wanted to make clear that we support those revisions and recommend that they be made to this Senate version. And just another note, almost the majority of our almost 70 member firms are small businesses, locally owned small businesses, including my own. This bill is important to us because we're just not in the position to engage in this program with uninsurable terms and conditions. So I think we'll have a lot more participation if these fixes get made. Thank you for the opportunity to testify.
Thank you. Grassroots Institute of Hawaii in support.
Aloha will stand on our written testimony in support.
Thank you. Maui Chamber of Commerce in support. Plumbers and Fitters Local 675 in support. Anyone in person or online wishing to testify on SB 2378 SC2? Seeing none.
Members, any questions? Seeing none, next item on the agenda is SB 2398 SD2 relating to residential housing utilities. Vice Chair for the testimony.
Board of Water Supply in opposition.
Yes, we're in opposition. Kathy Mitchell, the Board of Water Supply.
Thank you. Avalon Development in support.
Aloha, we stand in our written testimony in support.
Thank you. Hawaii Yimby in support. Housing Hawaii's Future in support.
We stand on our testimony in support. Thank you.
Thank you. And one individual in opposition. Anyone in person or online wishing to testify on SB 2398 SD2? Seeing none, Chair.
Members, any questions?
Chair,
Representative Cochran.
Board of Water Supply, please. Morning, and thank you for your testimony. Can you just elaborate the high points of your testimony? The main concerns?
Sure. Under a federal act and the Environmental Protection Agency, water utilities are considered a critical infrastructure. The threat of contamination, the threat of cybersecurity, whatever the case may be, we are a critical infrastructure. Our concern, the companion bill, initially it was about having water availability assessments, evaluations, and to put up information that may help developers. Keeping in mind the critical infrastructure. We don't give out information about our infrastructure. This bill, in particular the current form, on page 1, line 14 through 16, and page 3, line 4 through 6, also is asking for the board's present inventory of old but unfulfilled, unconstructed, or incomplete developer-funded improvements. That's asking more information beyond the availability of water. In our testimony on the last page, last paragraph, we do have a process on parcel-specific water availability assessments, and that's readily available should the developer or the permittee comes in or calls. We can provide that information. And thank you, Chair. Thank you very much for all those details. Thank you.
I have a follow-up question. So we did, for the House version, work with the Board of Water Supply and the other water departments around the state to come up with language that I believe you folks were okay with. And we addressed, the language you just brought up as a concern in this bill is not in the House version. I just want to clarify, are you folks supportive or okay with the House version of this bill?
There are more specific language about the number of parcels and so on. We're okay with providing generalized reference maps on availability. Also, every month, we have a board. The board meets. The board of Water Supply meets, and we provide reports on the water levels. So that's available to the public. But we have to keep in mind that the water utilities are critical infrastructure, and given the signs of times, whether it be cyber security attacks, fuel contaminating the water, we have to consider that.
So the
And so
language,
it's really hard to balance, you know, your interest on developing more houses and then keeping the water safe. It's a balance, and we're coming from the critical infrastructure and to keep our water safe.
well, I appreciate that. The language that we came up with in collaboration with Director Lau says include general descriptions regarding any limitations to the availability of water service. Parcel by parcel information shall not be required. Utility assets shall not need to be specified. And geographically identified areas should be consistent with the detail and general plan maps developed under section 46-4, which are, you know, pretty broad. So does that address your concerns around security and identifying infrastructure resources?
Generalized maps, we're all thinking about that and posting it on our website, generalized maps. But like I said, there's language in here about going beyond the water availability in the Senate version. As far as more in the House version, we still have reservations. As we indicated, collectively, the water utilities, collectively, we still have concerns about keeping our water safe and our infrastructure.
Could you elaborate then on what those concerns are? Because as far as I'm aware of, we did address those concerns by clearly saying utility assets shall not be specified and just requiring you folks to identify general descriptions. And, you know, the broad idea with this bill is that right now there's a lot of uncertainty for individual property owners on whether they have available water to build something like an ADU or an extra unit on their home. We have had this, heard of the situation a number of times for somebody going through the process of hiring an architect and then not knowing until late stage in their permit review that there's no water. So the idea is on the front end to help people identify when there's water or not, so they don't have to go through that work. And I'm happy to continue the collaboration with you to come up with language that works. From our previous discussions with the water directors, the House version language worked. So this is the first time I'm hearing that maybe folks still have concerns on the House language. So if you don't mind just elaborating what those concerns are, if you can say that. And again, on the House version.
I can elaborate a little bit. I can't speak for the manager and chief engineer of each water utility. I'll answer it like this. We had a threat on Oahu to our water, the aquifer, and it's still a threat because the investigation is still going on. And just imagine that. What if there's a lot of fuel in our aquifer? Imagine the day without water. Water is the lifeline to the quality of life, public health and safety. Without water, every property owner, every renter, every visitor would be significantly, seriously impacted. We take seriously protecting our water. And we understand the intent of the bill is to balance, and in the front end, developers in their planning and design can still come to our Board of Water Supply or any water utility in the state and get that information. To post more above and beyond the availability on our website, a reference map. Beyond that, you're asking information, the permittee or the developers asking information about our critical infrastructure. And I just say again, if we don't have any water, much of the people in the state of Hawaii will be impacted.
I appreciate that, and I appreciate water as much as anybody, and I appreciate the work that you folks do to ensure that we have safe and reliable sources of water. But I want to clarify again that all that the House version is asking is general descriptions regarding any limitation to the availability of domestic water supply. Again, parcel by parcel information is not required, utility assets shall not be required, right? That was the language which the directors of the water agencies had asked for. And so again, I'm just surprised, given that language is in the House version, that I'm hearing now that you folks are maybe not supporting that language. When I want to better understand the connection between the language in the House version and the possible identification of, sensitive assets that shouldn't be disclosed, because I don't think there's anything in that version that would require that disclosure.
For the Honolulu Board of Water Supply, we're not opposed to posting on our website a general description of water availability.
Okay, I appreciate that. Thank you
you.
so much.
Sure, sorry, a
Representative
follow-up.
Cochran.
So what Chair is asking for, that's already, I mean, the need for developers to know whether they have water or not is already available for your information to give.
Yes. And they should do that upfront.
Right.
Check with the water utilities upfront. Now, I don't know how long it takes if you're talking about single-family residential or you're talking about a condo. We do everything on a case-by-case evaluation. And water is available on a first-come, first-served basis.
And one follow-up, Chair. So Maui County, you're where we have the show me the water bill. Is there such a thing here for city and county? Show me the water, like, we're not gonna approve and entertain your project or anything if you can't show us that you have water for your development. Is there?
I just said we can show you if we have
Okay.
water available.
Well, I mean, it's mandated in Maui County, so anyways, okay, well, thank you.
It's a little different.
Yeah, we are.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And I
Sure.
just, thanks for that. The intention of the bill, I think large scale developers clearly are gonna go through the process on the front end to ensure. Where we're seeing hangups is on individuals trying to, somebody who's not a developer who just wants to build an ADU or do a conversion on their own property. And then they go through this process and then they find out on the back end. And again, I've heard of a number of these stories occurring. And even with some dialogue with the water departments on the front end, and they still don't find out until after they've hired the architect and go through the permitting process and get rejected. So I think we're trying to come up with something that's beneficial for everybody, right? Reducing the workload on everybody's front. Nobody should be going through all this work if the water's just not there. So we want to come up with a way that just helps clarify this for everybody, so we're not doing wasted effort.
Yes, I'm not sure a law is warranted for that because it's really common sense. If you're a planner, developer, why wouldn't you pick up the phone and call?
Again, this is individual homeowners, and if you want a specific example.
For Board of Water Supply, just speak for the Board of Water Supply. Given the introduction of this bill, yes, we are considering posting on our website for those who would rather access the website to see more about water availability. We could provide the maps and then provide a contact number.
Yeah, and what the House version would go one step further and would require that there be essentially an online portal that somebody could put in a request. So the maps are generalized. It clearly says that the maps should not be used for permit determinations. Somebody can't use that map and say, no, you showed me that there's water on the map, I get my permit. The maps are supposed to be generalized, but if somebody actually wants to go through the process, that the map would have, a link to a submission form that somebody could get a clear answer from you folks to say, yes, you have water, and then that answer would, hold for 90 days or some period of time where they could use that as the permit determination. So that's what the hope is essentially that one extra step. And because what we've heard is that, yes, this is done case by case. Yes, you might tell somebody there's water, but then a month later there might not be water, right? That this is constantly in flux.
Yes, Manager and Chief Engineer Ernie Lau has considered the intent and is willing to put on our website the necessary information for somebody looking for that.
That's great, that's what we're looking for. I appreciate that. Thank you so much. Members, further questions? Seeing none, next item on the agenda is SB 2192 SD1 related to housing. Vice Chair for the testimony.
Grassroots Institute of Hawaiian support.
We'll stand on our written testimony and support.
Thank you. Anyone in person or online wishing to testify on SB 2192 SD1?
Seeing none, Chair. Members, any questions? Right. Seeing none, next item on the agenda is SB 2155 SD1 related to wastewater systems. Vice Chair for the testimony.
Department of Health with comments on Zoom. Oh, person.
Morning Chair, morning Vice Chair, committee members. I'm Kevin Ilu from Department of Health. We stand on our written testimony providing comments, and I'll be available for questions.
Thank you. Grassroots Institute of Hawaii with comments.
We'll stand on our written testimony with comments.
Thank you. Anyone in person or online wishing to testify on SB 2155 SD1?
Members, any questions?
Department of Health, please.
Representative Cochran. Department of Health, yeah.
Hey,
Money.
is this to help with the cesspool conversions that's been mandated across the state? Is this trying to help assist with that?
No, I don't believe so. I believe this is to allow, because our individual wastewater systems, which is septic systems right now, the approved individual wastewater system, has a limit, a max limit of 5 bedrooms. That's based on the design capacity of the septic system. So it will allow a 6th bedroom actually. So it would allow a bigger house basically.
On the same system?
On a septic system, yeah.
With the capacity of 5 bedrooms. So you wanna, is that what's happening here? You wanna add on another bedroom to a 5 capacity septic tank?
So that's where the Department of Health provided comments. So we have to take a look at what else we have to do as far as our rules and the maximum capacity. If we increase the maximum capacity, there might be other requirements like a larger leach field or absorption bed, things like that. So we need to take a look at what other ramifications or what other requirements we would have to put in place if we increase the max capacity. So the 6 bedroom is actually for the individual wastewater system is actually increasing the capacity.
Right. Chair, a follow-up?
Please go ahead.
And so where are there more concentrated areas where this is to address here? Or in the state, or I don't know if it's just this island or?
I'm not too sure. It's just any house that has any single family home that has a individual wastewater system, it'll allow a 6 bedroom instead of, if they wanna renovate, you wanna add on another bedroom, it'll just allow another bedroom.
So basically areas that aren't tied to county systems,
Yes,
right?
they're not.
Yeah, okay.
They're not tied to a centralized wastewater system, yes.
Okay, thank you for your time.
Sure, real quick question. Yeah, Representative Morocco.
Sure.
I asked this question out of complete and utter confusion. Why do we care how much bedrooms are in a house, and why does this not say bathrooms or kitchens? Because these are what actually drain into the septic system, not a bedroom.
Correct. Industry standards, they use bedrooms as the as the sizing to size the design capacity of a septic system. It's the industry that uses. And for different states, they have different capacity estimations. So in Hawaii, we have 100 gallons per person per day, and then average of 2 persons per bedroom. So that's where we come up with 5 bedroom, because our max capacity for a cesspool or for a septic system is 1,000 gallons. That's the max design capacity you can have for our rules. So that's why it's 5 bedrooms times the two people per average 2 persons per bedroom times 100 gallons per person per day. So that's where it's, yeah, practically I know what you're saying, like you could have a shower that's not connected and so on and so forth. But the industry standard is using bedroom count as how you design the capacity of the septic system.
Any further questions? I have a question. So you said in your testimony, Act 224 last year clarified that it would be a max of 5 bedrooms regardless of the number of dwelling units. So that theoretically would allow for 5 one-bedroom dwelling units.
Correct.
And so it does seem like some of the language in this is unnecessary because that was addressed through the first part of this bill, which says you can have up to 5 dwellings. Is
Yes,
already.
the dwellings portion of the measure is not needed because of the act last year. Yes.
So the part I am interested though in trying to flesh out is the 6-bedroom
The 6
component.
bedroom, yes.
And so if, say, we were just to amend 342D-73, so essentially amending the language from Act 224,
Yes.
then instead of saying a max of 5 bedrooms, we would say a max of 6 bedrooms, regardless of the number of dwelling units. Just change that 5 to a 6, like, what would happen? So we're changing statute to do that, what would you guys have to do to make that
Okay,
happen?
so our max is 1,000 gallons per day. So in our administrative rules, that's where we have the 100 gallons per person per day average to come up with 1,000 max. If somebody is using if the homeowner is using like a seepage pit, 1,000 gallons per day, over 1,000 gallons per day is going to actually be considered it's going to be an injection well. Yeah, over 1,000 gallons per day is going to be considered an injection well. At that point, then they're going to need permitting for an injection well. So what would have to answer your question, Chair, is we'd have to look at the rules. Either so there's two ways for us to implement just putting a 6th bedroom in there. Either we have to increase the capacity, the maximum allowed capacity, which then we would have to look at other rules like regarding injection wells. Or we would have to revise the rules to reduce our average, like I said, 100 gallons per day per person, which if you've been to some cesspool meetings or presentations, most people will say that's on the high side compared to the rest of the country. So it's on the high side because the operation and maintenance of any individual wastewater system is absolutely the responsibility of the homeowner. So there's a factor of safety that we put on. There's no monitoring or anything like that for the individual wastewater system. So there's a factor of safety. So what we'd have to look at is we have to look at what risks we're taking by reducing the factor of safety. If we reduce the average, it's a numbers game at that point, right? The average, say we go to 75 gallons per person per day, average, then it'll be 150 gallons a bedroom. Then 6 bedrooms would be 900 gallons, would be under the 1,000. Okay, so that would be the two things that the Department of Health would have to look at. And then we'd have to take a good look at it because we'd also wanna respect the intent of the bill, which is to provide more housing. So we have to balance the public health risk or the health risk with that. Yeah, and that's why we'll take a look at it. But that's what we would have to do.
Thank you. Respectfully, my understanding with us being on the high side is that, not just on the high side, but is it true that what I've heard is that we're double what the nearest state is as far as gallons per day per bedroom?
Not the nearest state, yeah, but some states we're double some states, true. Yes,
But
so,
are we the highest though? I mean, are there other states that use 200 gallons per day per bedroom?
20?
200.
Or 200?
Yeah.
I don't believe so.
Okay.
I don't believe so, yes.
So I guess getting at that then, and I appreciate all the work that you folks do, and I don't wanna sort of open up this cascade of sequences that's gonna force you to amend how we're dealing with, injection wells, et cetera, but
Correct.
it does sound like if we did go to 6, that a relatively simple fix would be to lower the gallons per day per bedroom to ensure that we could accommodate 6.
Correct, and then we would have to, for our portion, our responsibilities, we have to kind of look at how we will measure the impact to the risks. Yeah, and like you said, Chair, I can't say, it seems like it'll be a low risk. It does, but I can't say for sure unless we have more science, because a lot of the numbers, when we look back, and you've been in the cesspool meetings, when we look back at how some of the numbers were developed in our requirements, we can't find the science and the research right behind it. So we really want to stop that trend and have more science or research based for our regulatory numbers. Yeah. So we'd have to. We would like to have some level of research or science. It doesn't have to be a lot, but some level.
Yeah.
To back up having 75. We can use the rest of the country and so on and so forth. There's geology involved with the designs and with the disposal systems, you know, and things like that, other factors that we need to look, that is unique to Hawaii also. But I'm not saying that it's impossible, and I'm not saying that it would be a high risk, that we shouldn't do it. I just said we do have to take a look at it.
Yeah, I appreciate that, and I know some of the work that we've collaborated on is to establish a technical advisory sort of working group.
Yes,
to try and fill in these gaps, and I do think in a perfect world, that information would come first, and then the increase to the bedroom count would come second.
Correct.
That said, it seems like because we are so high in our gallons per day per bedroom, clearly, I think there wasn't, I don't think any bedroom is using 200 gallons per day. Like, that just seems like a shocking overestimate. And like, so I don't wanna get into the place where we're sort of reverse engineering those numbers to meet some statutory mandate. But it does seem like there's room to go down, and maybe going to 6 like wouldn't be the end of the world. If you guys went down, and then, hopefully this working group board can do their work.
Yeah. So I mean, if we do go down without a thorough research or science, then it'll be more on the back end, yeah. If something actually starts impacting the environment or public health, then we would have to take care of it on that end of it. Is the risk high or low? I cannot tell you. It sounds like it'll be low based off of all the information we have, yes, but I cannot tell you for certain. But then, so that's just the potential of what we'd have to do on the back end. Yeah.
Understood, thank you. Thanks for being here. Members, further questions?
Question, Chair.
Yeah, Representative
So,
Legigo.
since the passage of the act last year, has the department implemented
Yes.
the study?
Oh, the study.
Yeah, to determine that the adjustments to the wastewater flow of the additional bedroom, or you said, right, we're talking about like, does a person like actually have?
Oh, the act last year was to adjust the dwelling units,
Right.
the number of dwelling units. There's measures this year about a technical advisory
Since
group.
then until today, did you work on any type of study to see how this would be, implemented, and like what the impact would be on like the wastewater?
Well, we started informal groups of experts and stakeholders. Yeah, but we haven't started like scientific research study or anything like that.
So what would this entail to kind of get us to a point where there is, a definition, an updated definition of what could entail, I guess, what's an acceptable use or what's an actually documented use? Does that make sense for wastewater?
So are you asking what would entail to actually get to an accurate gallons per day per bedroom, which is the number I think that they.
Yeah.
I think the technical advisory group would be a huge, because we would have to, like Chair Evden said, we're the highest in the country. So we'd have to look at all the factors that every state, looked at also to determine why we're the highest. Yeah, so there would be some, we would have to get a lot of information of how things are being done. And then there's really the science, unless somebody comes up within the technical advisory group, because there's gonna be different concerns from different stakeholders. Like some might be, the levels of some kind of contaminant or nitrates, say, for example, in the ground. Some might be like, how far does it travel how far does anything you put in the ground travel from that location? So there's a lot of factors that gotta be looked at, and then I think the stakeholder advisory group would bring all those factors together.
The stakeholder group would be convened by you, but like would have like members from each county, for example.
Correct.
But to amend the 100 gallons per day per person and determine like actual use,
Well,
you would need legislation, or you would just need admin rules?
Admin rules. We just need admin rules, and I think what the group will allow us is the group will determine what everybody is comfortable with. So say we don't have exact science and an exact research for it, but at least it'll be the group, and then everybody agrees that the risk. So like how I said with Chair Evden, like we can't measure the risk, but if everybody agrees that the risk is low and every stakeholder agrees, then we can take that step, right? The Department of Health would have more reason to take that step. Because everybody agrees that the risk is lower, even though we don't have absolute scientific, but we have all this industry information, we have everything else, then everybody, the whole group, which hopefully covers everyone, yeah, or
Sorry,
represents everyone, then we all come together and we all agree that, yeah, 75 is a low risk. So let's go to 75 and we'll implement it. And again, if it ends up being a bigger impact than the whole group, now the whole group has to help us figure out, okay, what do we do now?
Do you know when this number was
Oh,
identified?
I can find that out for you.
But
It was
like
a
decades?
long,
It's
yes.
like been decades, and there's no formal structure to revisit this number.
No, we don't have.
Okay. So we've had that 100-gallon per person per day since before I was born, kind of like me.
Probably.
Okay, thank you.
It's a stupid question.
20 years ago.
Oh, no. Well, okay, thank you.
Starting gets you nowhere.
A stupid follow-up to that. So I know water usage per household is public, or at least semi-public. I've gotten access to information
Yes, water
in the
usage
past.
is.
And you know, we know how many bedrooms each household has. It doesn't seem like it would be that hard to just sort of take an island's per house water usage divided by the number of bedrooms in that house and at least come up with a figure that like what our house is using for water. But what I'm hearing you saying is that that's not quite all there is, that you're also looking maybe at like topography and soil types to see how far water is moving in the soil. Is that the calculation for water use per bedroom per day, from what I heard you describing to Rep. La Chica, is maybe not just a simple calculation of how much is that average home in Hawaii using?
The impact from the cesspool discharges is, so if we actually increase the capacity. So if we're looking at, then the geology isn't going to play that big a role if we're looking at reducing the average gallons per day, per person per day. Yeah. The geology is when we're actually trying to measure if there are impacts or not to an increased flow. Yeah, because if we add more people to a house, it's going to increase. We can go back and forth at how much it increases, or right, but it will increase the flow that septic system saw.
Yeah. So
now it is there impacts to the environment. That's when the geology comes.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
All right, thank you. We all got a good lesson in water today. Thank you. Members, any further questions? Seeing none, next item on the agenda, SB 3219, proposing amendments to Article 7, Sections 12 and 13 of the Hawaii State Constitution. Vice Chair of the testimony.
HPHA in support.
HPHA stands on its testimony in support.
Thank you. Office of Planning and Sustainable Development in support.
OPSD stands on its written testimony in support. Thank you.
Thank you. HHFDC in support.
HFC stands on its testimony in support.
Thank you. HCDA in support. Present. Navi and Hawaii in support.
Stand on our written testimony in support.
Thank you. Hawaii Realtors in support.
Thank you, we stand on our testimony in strong support.
Thank you. NIOP in support.
Stand on our testimony in strong support.
Thank you. DR Horton Hawaii in support.
DR Horton stands on his testimony in support.
Thank you. Avalon Development in support.
Avalon stands on our written testimony in strong support.
Thank you. Pacific Resource Partnership in support.
Vice Chair, Chair Andrew Pereira, Pacific Resource Partnership, we stand on our testimony in strong support. Thank you.
Thank you. Hawaii Regional Council of Carpenters in support.
Morning, Chair, Vice Chair, members. Mark Clemente for the Hawaii Regional Council of Carpenters. Strong support of this measure. I was just going to stand on my written testimony, but as I kept reading testimony, there's a point I wanted to make. So debt limits, they exist for a reason. They protect taxpayers by ensuring that when the public backs the project, the risk is capped and responsible. But this proposal before you here is fundamentally different. These bonds are not backed by taxpayer dollars. They are backed by growth generated within the project itself. So, in other words, growth pays for growth. Because of that structure, they should be treated differently than traditional county bonds, and if the project performs, it funds its own infrastructure. If it falls short, it's not the public that takes that risk, it's the investors, the bondholders. So this is a responsible performance-based approach to financing the infrastructure we need to build housing without placing additional burden on our taxpayers. Further, HRS 46-106 subsection I, the bondholders cannot compel the county government or the state government to pay back those bonds should the project fall short. So I just want to make that very clear. Thank you.
Thank you. Housing Hawaii's future and support.
We stand on our testimony and support.
Thank you. Tax Foundation of Hawaii with comments.
Thank you, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. Tom Yamachika for Tax Foundation. Our concern is with the exception to the constitutional the constitutional debt limit. One of the features of this bill is to exempt these bonds from the constitutional debt limit, and we're concerned about that because the debt is supposed to be paid back by increased property tax revenues from the development that, of course, has yet to occur. And if the debt's not paid back, then the bondholders are going to have some recourse, and who are they going to go against? Probably the county. And if that's not true, then I stand corrected. But if it is true, then we have a problem. Thank you very much. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. We received testimony and support from Maui County Council Chair Alice Lee and testimony and support from Councilmember Uu Hodgins and one individual in support. Members, you also got a late testimony from Land Use Research Foundation handed to you for SB 3219. Anyone in person or online wishing to testify on SB 3219? Seeing none, Chair.
Members, any questions? Representative Cochran.
Carpenters Union?
Hello.
Wayne, how are you?
Good.
So, thank you. You mentioned that for the bonds and the debt that would not need to be paid back if something should go awry, I suppose.
The risk would be borne by the bondholders, the investors. I mean, that's written into the bill. It's solely payable by, let me pull up the language. So on page 8 of the bill, line 1, well, it starts in line 20 of the previous page. But basically, the housing infrastructure growth bonds secured solely by all real property taxes levied by a political subdivision. So those are the TIF districts.
Right, a follow-up, Chair. That's our taxpayer dollars that originally are being forked out in order to, right?
But that doesn't exist yet. So it's that growth that will be developed by the infrastructure will finance the bonds.
And I think that's where my concern, it can occur, an issue could occur if it just doesn't play out.
Then the
Right?
bondholders won't bear that risk.
Right, exactly. So, yeah, there's just some, I guess,
And they're not allowed
concerns
to.
that could occur, although, because this is like, sort of projecting in the future what can be or can't be and stuff, so.
Well, 48 out of 50 states have this in place, and it's been successful in those states. I think it's time we jump on that. We need every tool in the quiver to fight our housing crisis, and this is just one other tool.
Okay, thank you for your comments.
Quick follow-up, Mark. So it does say secured solely by all real property taxes levied by a political subdivision. So what happens, say property tax revenue is less than expected from the development. Would they sort of like refinance and extend that, amortization period for the bond? Or do we have any case studies in places that have had this occur?
That's a good question, and I can get back to you on that.
I appreciate that, and I mean, it does seem very clear here that it is payable solely by real property tax divisions in the TIF district. I think that part is clear, so the county shouldn't be on the hook further, as you said.
Right.
But it does seem something that maybe would be possible to just extend that payoff period.
Yeah, and I think HRS, like I mentioned earlier, 46-106 does give guidance as to those types of situations as well, but I can get back to you on that.
Appreciate that, thanks.
Thank you.
Chair,
Members, yeah,
I'm sorry.
Representative Cochran.
No, sorry, yeah, then, thank you, but I had for Mr. Yamachika.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, sorry, thank you. For
Yamachika, are you there?
Yamachika still here, yeah. Hi, aloha.
Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony and time. So, sorry, what was my train of thought right now? Should things, so real property tax from the different districts will be on the hook? Should something go not as planned? Do you foresee that affecting their bond ratings?
Well, I mean, certainly.
I mean, they're saying this, sorry, if I can just add, that this won't affect debt limit and things of that nature, but I think, you know, yeah, how would this, would it or wouldn't, I guess, affect bond ratings?
Well, I mean, for the bonds themselves, the fact that they're not backed by the full faith and credit of the county or the state makes them riskier and therefore more expensive. And I think you know the HRS 46-106 was mentioned. Well, I mean, if we already have that authority, then why do we need the CONAM? That's number one. And number two is if we are going to be using 47C to do this, which is what the next bill proposes, which is the companion bill to this CONAM bill. Is it clear? And I, you know, I'm not an expert in property bond law, but is it clear that you know 46-106 applies to Chapter 47C? I don't know the answer to that question, and I hope it is clear.
Okay, well, thank you again for your time and expertise in the field. Mahalo. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
Members, any further questions? Are you asking a follow-up to her question?
Just a follow-up to the
You can answer that
representative's question. If there is any shortfall, typically a county will step in to cover the shortfall because it could affect the county's bond rating. But the assurances that the county would have would be in a development agreement. So there are certain assurances that the county can make with the developer that if there's not enough revenue from the real property taxes coming in, then the developer would cover any shortfall. So it's the due diligence of the county when they're forming these districts to make sure that there's backstops in place.
That's good information, thank you.
Follow-up check.
Sorry,
Sorry.
Andrew, if you could stay. Representative
So
Legend.
for the states that have this in place, what is the decision making? How do they project the revenue with the counties?
I'm not a bond expert, but I understand that the bond writers typically see how much revenue could be generated, and they write the bonds 20-30% under that amount so that there's some leeway there. So for example, the NASA district, the Aloha Stadium district has 0 property taxes coming in. They would do an assessment of how much RPT would be generated as the development comes in, and then they would write the bonds pretty substantially under that amount so that there's no shortfall in the future.
Do you know how far ahead they project in terms of years?
Again, I'm not an expert, but they would look at the development, and I think it's the due diligence of the counties when they're putting together these housing infrastructure growth bond districts to make sure that there's agreements in place with the home builders so that there's an ability to cover the shortfall should one occur.
And should this pass, it would be up to the counties to set up each of the houses would be set up.
Correct. What's really interesting with our research with Stifel, the financial services company, that this could even be done down to the city block. So the districts can be large or small, but you're really leveraging that future growth to put the infrastructure in place. And finally, our research has shown that by having the infrastructure put in place by government through these types of creative financing, you can lower the cost of housing by about 30%, and that directly benefits our people. Thanks.
Members, further questions? Seeing none, final item on the agenda, SB 3218 ST2 related to bonds. Vice Chair for the testimony.
Hawaii Public Housing Authority in support. Thank you. D-Bed Stadium Authority in support. Office of Planning Sustainable Development in support.
PSD stands on its written testimony and support. Thank you.
Thank you. Attorney General's Office with comments.
Morning, Chair, Vice Chair, members. Ian Robertson, Deputy Attorney General. We've submitted testimony, expressing comments on this bill, noting that as it's currently written, it doesn't appear to provide a sufficient process to facilitate actually issuing housing infrastructure growth bonds. Thank you.
Thank you. HHFDC in support.
HSG stands on its testimony and support.
Thank you. Hawaii State Association of Counties in support. Navian Hawaii in support.
Stand on our written testimony and support.
Thank you. Hawaii Realtors in support.
We stand on our testimony and support. Thank you.
Thank you. Pacific Resource Partnership in support.
Stand on our written testimony and strong support.
Thank you. DR Horton Hawaii in support.
Stand on our testimony and support.
Thank you. Avalon Development Company in support.
We stand on our written testimony and strong support.
Thank you. Hawaii Regional Council of Carpenters in support.
Sam Kim, Hawaii Regional Council of Commerce, stand on our written testimony.
Thank you. Housing Hawaii's Future in support.
We stand on our testimony and support. Thank you.
Thank you. HCDA in support. Maui Chamber of Commerce in support. Maui County Chair Alice Lee in support. Hawaii County Council Member Bulasan in support. One individual in support. And members, you received the late testimony from Land Use Research Foundation handed to you. They're also in support. Anyone online or in person wishing to testify on SB 3218 SC2? Seeing none, Chair.
Members, any questions? Representative Cochran.
Was it OPSD? No, sorry, AG's office. Ian Robertson.
Yes.
Morning, thank you for being here. I just wanted to get your elaboration on your concerns. I know that you're mentioning there's a lot of required consultation that really should need to be done here. And you're saying there's a lack of procedural, procedures in place for this to roll out. And so just a little more, elaboration
Sure.
on those concerns?
Yeah, so the bill as it's currently written does incorporate these new types of bonds into 47C-1, but that's not, that section doesn't provide procedures as to issuing the bonds like you might see for other types of bond issuances. Some other people have referred to Chapter 46. There's a process in there as an example.
And so it's a follow-up, Chair. And so do you folks have that type of expertise, like,
In-house,
Yeah.
the Attorney General.
I mean, like for further, bond counsel type knowledge and.
We would need for something like that, given the high technical nature and the significant financial impacts of it, that would need to be something that's worked out in consultation with qualified bond counsel. We don't have the expertise in-house.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you'd have to outsource, hire out, so to speak.
Yeah, or look for somebody to talk to.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Outside the department though, yes.
Yes, okay, well, thank you. Thank you for your time. Thank you,
Chair
Chair.
Cochran. Ian, thanks for being here.
Sure.
Could you maybe just briefly explain the work that we've done to come up with some implementation language on this?
Sure. We did look at some proposals and we did confer with bond counsel on that. That's bond counsel that was on a contract for something else who happened to be available. And bond counsel did suggest some edits to that. So I'm not sure where you're at as far as that, but we did have that conversation, yes.
Yeah, appreciate that, and thank you for your folks' work on that. And we'll get to it during decision making, but I think it'll help address some of Representative Cochran's concerns.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Members, any further questions? Alright, seeing none, brief recess. reconvening our House Housing Committee hearing for decision making. The first item on the agenda is SP 2190 SD2. And I just wanna note, OHA was online trying to testify in opposition. They were having technical issues, which is why we weren't able to get them up, but we did receive their written comments. So members, you all have OHA's written testimony in opposition. I recommend that we move out an HD1 with a defected date on this bill. Members, any questions, comments, or concerns?
Sure.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
I think I'm gonna WR on this one, and I appreciate the conversation we're having around inclusionary zoning this session, because I think it's really important we base our policy on research and evidence, and I acknowledge that a lot of that research and evidence shows that there are some problematic impacts of IZ, but I also know there's research that shows when it's used strategically and targeted, there are some benefits, like making sure that lower income people can live in higher income neighborhoods, and addressing economic segregation, something we balance against overall housing supply and costs. So just being cautious, I'm gonna WR for now.
Representative Cochran?
Yeah, I mean, I'm open and grateful for the discussion here on the subject matter. I think I concur with OHA, and sorry they weren't here to testify, but you know, I just, coming from county, I suppose the county home rule type of aspects of it kind of, rubs me the wrong way, I guess. So anyhow, yeah, just WR at this time. Thank you.
Yeah,
Then Muraoka.
you know, I also agree with Rep. Cochran that OHA really hit the nail on the head with this testimony, so based on OHA's testimony, I'm a no.
And members, I also just wanna clarify this. It is pretty narrowly applicable to prohibiting IZ requirements on housing exclusively for sale or rent in perpetuity buyers or renters who are residents of the state, are owner occupants or do not own any other real property. Right, so this essentially would be a very narrow segment of the market of likely deed restricted units. And I think that's why we didn't see county opposition, because it wouldn't necessarily force an overhaul of the IZ programs. And we have another IZ bill moving through the Senate, a House bill which is moving through the Senate, which does something else, and these two could stand, you know, doing sort of different things relatively narrowly. So, but totally acknowledge the concerns. Further questions or comments? Alright, seeing none, Vice Chair for the vote.
Voting on SB 2190 SD2, the recommendation is to pass with amendments. Chair and Vice Chair vote aye. Reservations for Rep. Grandinetti, Rep. Keela,
Aye.
Rep. Kitagawa,
Aye.
Rep. LaChica.
Aye.
Reservations for Rep. Cochran. No vote for Rep. Muraoka, Rep. Herrick.
Reservations.
Reservations, the recommendation is adopted.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda is SP 2338 SD1 related to housing. I recommend that we move out an HD1 on this as well. And I recommend that we change the contract term to 3 years for both HHFTC and HPHA provisions. That based on the AG's testimony, that we remove the allowance for concurrent resolution for both HPHA and HHFTC contract terms. That we remove the language on page 6, lines 5 through 8, which those are project level outcomes and not necessarily like employee level outcomes that we should be measuring performance by. That we changed all the references, the finance director references to finance manager. That we delete the language regarding autonomy in personal matters for both HHFTC and HPHA. And that based on the testimony from HHFTC, that we clarify in both subsection 2 and 3 of the bill that all employees in subsection B are exempt from chapter 76 and section 26-35A4. That we delete all of the language on page 4, line 17 to page 5, line 12, while retaining just the provision that the finance manager shall be paid a salary set by the board. As the rest of that language, I believe, is overly prescriptive for a job description codified in statute. And based on the AG's testimony, that we clarify that the bill applies prospectively and does not affect employment contracts lawfully executed before its effective date. Tech amendments as necessary and will be affecting the date. Members, questions, comments, or concerns? Right. Seeing none, Vice Chair for the vote.
Voting on SB 2338 SD1, the recommendation is to pass with amendments, noting all members present. Any reservations? Any reservations for Rep. Pyrick? Any no votes? No votes for Rep. Muraoka and Rep. Cochran. The recommendation is adopted.
Thank you. Our next item is SB 2424 SD1. My recommendation is that we just replace the contents of the bill entirely with the companion for this, which is HB 1740 HD2, which was mostly some tech amendments and clarification that I think was better phrased in the House version. Members, questions, comments, or concerns? Representative Grandinetti.
More on this one also, mostly just around the 1 year owner occupancy requirement. And I appreciate that we're trying to build in more flexibility for local families. I just feel that we should focus on primarily serving owner occupants.
Just a question, are we allowed to delete all language of the bill and replace it with another bill, even though it's expanded?
Yes. And honest, we could address it by doing substantive tech amendments. Honestly, it's just easier to just insert the concept of the other one. They are substantially the same thing. But yes, we can. Thank you. Members, further questions?
Good. Yeah, I agree with Rep. Grandinetti about the minimum year, and because of that, I don't know.
Thanks,
Same, no, and I think I stated in the original discussions when testimonies came in before us of my concerns.
Thanks, and I appreciate those concerns. I think what we're trying to balance here is a real issue about people buying into these units and getting locked into a unit and not being able to upsize as their family grows. And also not being able to build equity over time, maybe as their incomes grow, right? You buy a studio and you're essentially committed to that studio, and we need to figure out a way to resolve that, which this bill is attempting to do. Also, the units have to be permanently occupied by a Hawaii resident, so it would allow some flexibility for long-term renting. I also think we're building housing, like more rental housing is also a good thing. But 100% understand the concerns.
Sure.
Yes.
When you say occupied by a Hawaii resident, those can also be, investor people too, though. We look at, local and our workforce housing people, but this can also apply to a newly transplanted person can come in too. So, it just opens it up for that broader investment from outside, I suppose, is when I think I stated concern at that time.
I think importantly, the unit though couldn't be left vacant, could be short-term rented, right? So in my mind, as long as we're ensuring that these things are occupied, that's step one.
Thanks.
And also really importantly, right, the structure of the bill is to ensure that these have that provision for 80% of the units will have that forever, instead of the current 201H program, which 50% of the units are income restricted for 10 years and then that disappears and they all go to market to whoever. So there's trade-offs in both options. This is preserving that option, it just provides some more flexibility through this option.
Hey, Chair, thank you for clarifying that. I'll change from no to a reservation.
Thank you. Members, further questions, comments, concerns? Seeing none, Vice Chair for the vote.
Voting on SB 2424 SD1, the recommendation is to pass with amendments, noting the reservations of Representative Grandinetti and Muraoka. Any other reservations? And the no vote for Rep. Cochran. Any no votes? No vote for Rep. Pyrick. Recommendation is adopted.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is SB 2356 SD1 relating to parking. Well, this apparently is my favorite subject. We'll be deferring this bill because we'll be incorporating much of the language into the next bill. Next item is SB 2981 relating to land use. So this bill inhibits minimum parking restrictions statewide in a way that is much broader in applicability than anything the House has deliberated on previously. My intention here is to move something forward that has the best chance of passage. And hearing concerns that were brought up on previous House efforts, will be, I recommend that we adopt the language from HB 1919 HD 3, but removing the provisions in that bill relating to ADUs, childcare facilities, commercial spaces under 3,000 square feet, and Part B in its entirety. This addresses essentially every specific instance of concern that was brought to me regarding the previous bill, and would be much more narrow in its scope than the previous iteration of HB 1919 HD 3. I'd like to also add language that prohibits off-street parking requirements within a TOD. To be clear, this already is applicable in Honolulu, already doesn't have a minimum off-street parking requirements within TODs. So this would be more applicable to the neighbor island TODs, which each neighbor island has, relatively small TOD in town courts. Members, questions, comments, or concerns?
So Chair. Sorry, was there someone?
Rep.
I'm
Crawford, you
sorry.
go first. No, I was waiting. I knew there were some concerns coming. I was just waiting.
Well, the Unite Here's testimony, were you able to work with that
With,
union? Cause you said you addressed all the opposition and testifying people, I guess.
Yeah, no, just to be clear, I addressed the I had addressed specific comments of concern from members of the House from conversations that I'd had around HB 1919 with them. So members brought to me specific concerns with HB 1919 on provisions in the bill. That's what I was addressing.
Not outside public concerns.
Yeah, I mean, I don't off the top of my head know what the concerns of the union were.
Okay.
But again, the bill is much more narrow in its scope.
And sorry,
Yep.
So the general effect, I guess, for a county right now, as you stated in your amendments, what would that look like?
So the remaining provisions of the bill would be that units, affordable units, senior housing, disabled housing, units under 1,200 square feet, and conversions of commercial space and mixed use housing would be exempt. And I'm speaking off the top of my head here, but I'm relatively positive that everything else in the bill was removed. So the applicability, would be those types of developments would be exempt from minimum parking requirements. I want to be clear, if somebody is building senior housing or housing for the disabled, then that's like a multifamily structure. They're likely to get financing to build that. There'd be some level of parking required by the financiers, but it's not going to be, very unlikely to be one unit per stall, and that clearly we don't need that much parking for those types of housing, because the residents are much less likely to drive.
Okay, and all right, I again, the imposition on counties, I guess, has always been and if I prefer, and thank you for these adjustments, definitely more palatable. And I just know that there's like more one-on-one case by case issues, and so I know you're trying to like put words in there to sort of spell it out, the parameters and guardrails and what have you, so I get it. So just, WR, because the unintended consequences can happen.
Yep.
Especially with rebuilding of Lahaina and things at this time, so that's so WR for me at this time.
Appreciate that.
Thanks for your efforts.
No, thank you, and I also want to clarify, as the commercial space provision was taken out, so for the rebuilding of Lahaina, unless there's mixed use spaces, it largely wouldn't have an impact on commercial areas. Okay. Members, further questions, comments, concerns?
You're deleting part B, what's the?
Part B is the provision that required no more than 0.5 units stalls per residential area in HB 1919. So that would come out. So the county could still have an underlying parking requirement for all residential uses. So you just have to carve out units under that. And the senior housing, disabled housing. Members, further questions? Seeing none, Vice Chair for the vote.
Voting on SB 2189. The recommendation is to pass with amendments. Noting Rep. Cochran's reservations. Any other reservations? Any no votes? Seeing none, the recommendation is adopted.
Thank you. Next item is SB 3028 ST2 relating to property conveyance. This bill is substantially similar in ways to HB 2049 HG3. Right, the cost of living adjustment, the multifamily housing adjustments, the marginal rate structure are all lifted from 2049 HD3. There aren't allocations in the bill, and the rate structure is blank, and the trails part is added in. So, actually, before I say the amendments, I just want to. Some testimony came in arguing that the marginal structure in this bill and in 2049 HD3 is punitive for multifamily housing. I think that's just maybe a plain misread of the multifamily housing provision. The intention with the multifamily housing language in there is that currently, if you have an apartment building that sells for $10 million and there's 20 units in there, each of those units are $500,000 units, yet the conveyance tax on that sale is going to be very high because it's $200,000, 20 million, whatever, $20 million total sale. The point of the multifamily adjustment is that the bracket will be based on the individual, the total price divided by units. So instead of total value being a $20 million bracket, it'd be a $500,000 bracket. So it's a significant reduction in conveyance taxes for multifamily housing. And I only say it because we had 2 or 3 pieces of testimony that called out that this is punitive for multifamily, and I think that's wrong. That said, my proposal here is to move forward in HD1, replace the contents of the bill entirely with HB 2049 HD3. That will blank out all of the rates and the allocations from the HD3, and that we add a blank allocation with a blank cap to the Special Land and Development Fund established pursuant to Section 171-19 for land acquisition for trails pursuant to Section 198D-2. So this, I think, retains what I think is the primary purpose of this bill, which is to set up a conveyance tax to fund trails, and then incorporating that trail language into our broader House version, which has the allocations for DHHL and infrastructure and the rental revolving fund and the legacy fund. Sorry, and just to be clear, we'll be blanking out the rates, the allocations, and the caps on those allocations. Members, questions, comments, or concerns?
Sure.
Yes, Representative
Is
Cochran.
there, so Mr. Yamachika, his elaboration on the Mason's rules thing, is that, what are your thoughts about that?
So custom and practice in the House is to blank out rates and then to let the Finance Committee fill in those rates. And so custom and practice does come ahead of Mason's manual as far as our legislative rules.
Okay, so it's not like a mandate requirement that you have to, put in figures in order to amend such bill?
Yeah, no, we have Mason's manual and then the rules which trump Mason's manual and then our custom and practice. So custom and practice is certainly to blank out the rates, which is what we'll generally always do for finance related bills.
Which totally drives me nuts, but anyway. Okay.
Chair.
Yeah.
Yes, Representative Moroka.
I sincerely appreciate the explanation of the conveyance tax and how you broke it down per room. But I cannot get over the fact that with all of the financial hardships that's being thrust upon us on the floor and in this legislative session, that we wanna use monies to go buy land for trails. With all of the housing crisis, all of the other things that we're facing, using this monies to go buy land to make trails, I cannot support that. That's a no for me.
Yeah, I hear you. Thank you. Members.
And sorry, Chair, another comment,
Representative Cochran.
cause I'm not supportive of this. I'm gonna be a no. And so, because of the carve outs, I guess, and he mentioned trails, and I think I've stated my issues with Department of Hawaiian Homelands, and all the funds they have been appropriated from the past and currently, and for where I stand, I've just had a friend die on that wait list last week. So I expect more efficiencies and production from the allocations we've already given. And so to say we're gonna carve out a lot of money annually from this taxation, I did not support at this time.
Thank you, noted. Members, further comments or concerns on the bill? Alright. Seeing none, Vice Chair for the vote.
Voting on SB 3028 SD2, the recommendation is to pass with amendments. Is there any reservations? Any no votes? No votes for Rep. Cochran, Rep. Maroka, and Rep. Herrick. The recommendation is adopted.
Chair,
Chair.
would you entertain a recess, please?
Yeah, brief recess.
So, they say.
Alright, reconvening our House Housing Committee hearing for decision making. So there possibly was a misstatement of a bill number when we took the vote on SB 2981, and just to out of an abundance of caution, we're gonna retake the vote on SB 2981, so I'd like to ask for a motion to reconsider the vote on SB 2981.
Chair, I'd like to offer a motion for reconsideration on the previous bill for the purpose of decision making.
Second. Alright, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Alright, retaking the vote, my amendments were already stated, those will stand, so Vice Chair for the vote.
Voting on SB 2981, the recommendation is to pass with amendments. Are there any reservations? Reservations for Rep. Cochran, any no votes?
What bill are we on?
2981.
Oh, yes.
Okay. Seeing none, Chair, the recommendation is adopted. Sorry, members, thank you.
Thank you. Alright, moving ahead to SB 3187 SD2 related to offsite construction. I recommend that we move this forward in HD1 and just effective date. Members, any questions, comments, or concerns?
Sure.
Representative Cochran.
In support, OPSD did have with that testimony, they preferred the House version. And just a notation, but also it was mentioned that in order for this to be fulfilled, restoring the state building code council has to happen for this to work. So are we confident that's gonna occur?
Yes, it will occur at some point.
Right.
There is separately a bill moving which would restore funding. The House budget has funding for the State Building Code Council. So I'm confident that we'll get it restarted.
Good, thank you.
I do just wanna note, I hear your concerns and I appreciate you bringing those up. I did not adopt OPSD's amendment. I do think that the offsite certification standards, by their nature, it'll be according to Hawaii State Building Code. I don't want to curtail the work of the working group all that much. If they can figure out standards for offsite certification for modular units built elsewhere, then I think we want to give them the flexibility to weigh out these options. I'll also add that I would hope that the mandate also would allow for not just single family homes to 1,200 square feet, that I do think that the working group should consider offsite certification for more projects out there, with all the stakeholders at the table. But given that it was introduced that way, given that this was a product of the SPEED Working Group Task Force, given that I think the introducer and others think that this is probably the most feasible route to sort of start with some offsite standards, I respect that work and I'm not amending those provisions accordingly. All right, members, any further questions, comments, or concerns? Seeing none, Vice Chair for the vote.
Voting on SB 3187 SD2, the recommendation is to pass with amendments. Any reservations? Any no votes? Seeing none, the recommendation is adopted.
Next item is SB 2378 SD2. We'll be deferring this bill. The companion is alive and well and crossed over first, so we'll rely on that as the vehicle. Next item is SB 2398 SD. Actually, sorry, it's not actually a companion, but it's a bill that is essentially doing the same thing. HB 1721, that's still moving. Next item, SB 2398 SD2. Related to residential housing utilities. I recommend that we move this out with an HD1. And then we adopt the language from HB 1923 HD1. As we had extensive discussions on this, the House version did take into account the concerns of the water agencies. That was sort of extensively workshopped and wordsmithed with the water agencies. And I believe it addresses their concerns, though there might be ongoing concerns. We'll be recommending that we adopt that language. Members, which again is probably similar, just a little bit more curtailed. Members, any questions, comments, or concerns? Representative Cochran.
Thank you, Chair. The testimony this morning does raise my concerns, continued concerns. And having done infrastructure in West Maui for 8 years, I understand this is an extra critical infrastructure, and just with the climate, overall with the state of our military affairs, terroristic affairs going on right now, it gives me huge reason for pause here. So I'm not in favor. Thank you.
Thanks. Members, further comments, concerns? And I do just want to clarify that the House version, as we discussed, does not require that they identify critical infrastructure. It is very clear on that front. It's not parcel by parcel information. It is a broad disclosure of water availability for broad geographic areas.
Sorry, Chair, and it's already there. It's this information's there, so I'm not sure what this is intending. But anyhow, it's just
It's intending for a publicly accessible resource that members can go online, see if there's a water restriction in their area. If not, they have a very clear form that they can direct an inquiry, which will be valid for permitting purposes for a certain amount of time afterwards, which is not the system that we have right now.
And so, if I may, maybe just County of Maui is just a lot more progressive and has it going on, but that we can look these up. So anyhow,
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Members, questions, comments, or concerns? Seeing none, Vice Chair for the vote.
Voting on SB 2398 SD2, the recommendation is to pass with amendments. Any reservations? Any no votes? No votes for Rep. Muraoka and Rep. Cochran. The recommendation is adopted.
Next item, SB 2192 SD1 related to housing. I recommend that we move this forward with an HD1, that we replace, quote, the number of housing units that may be built with, quote, aggregate zone residential capacity, and in the second instance of that phrase, change it to, quote, offsets that reduction by increasing zone residential capacity elsewhere in the county. That we delete the phrase within any geographical area. Tech amendments as necessary, and it will be defecting the date. So this is mostly just wordsmithing. I'll state my own concerns. I can see what the introducer is doing here. I think that there is instances that this could be possibly problematic, though I'm in general agreement with the broad principle. And so I'm moving this forward for continued dialogue and discussion. Members, questions, comments, or concerns? Representative Cochran.
Yeah, and because of definitely there's gonna be consequences here. I can't support this at this time as written.
Thank you. Further questions, comments, or concerns? Seeing none, Vice Chair for the vote.
Voting on SB 2192 SD2, the recommendation is to pass with amendments.
SD1.
Oh, sorry, SB 2192 SD1. The recommendation is to pass with amendments. Any reservations? Any no votes? No votes for Rep. Cochran and Rep. Muraoka. The recommendation is adopted.
Thank you. Next item is SB 2155 SD1 relating to wastewater systems. So as we discussed in the questions, we did half of this already through Act 224 in 2025, which clarified that a single septic system can have 5 bedrooms regardless of the number of dwelling units. So the first part of the bill I don't think is relevant anymore because we did that component. The second part of the bill could have ramifications. I do agree that it's something that we should be looking into, especially if our water count per bedroom, as we know, it is very, very high. It seems like there's clearly room to reduce that enough to ensure that we could do 6 bedrooms on a single septic system. So I will recommend that we move this forward and adopt the amendment proposed by Grassroot in their testimony to amend the language in 342D-73 and simply replace the number 5 with the number 6. Members, questions, comments, or concerns?
Sure.
Yes, Representative Cochran.
Just in West Maui, we have to get off these septics and cesspools and everything else, so I'm not in support of this
Thank you.
measure.
Members, further questions, comments, or concerns? Seeing none, Vice Chair for the vote.
Voting on SB 2155 SD1, the recommendation is to pass with amendments. Are there any reservations? Any no votes? No votes for Rep. Cochran and Rep. Muraoka. The recommendation is adopted.
Thank you. Next item is SB 3219. I recommend that we move forward in HD1 with adopting the language from the companion, which is HB 2476 HD2. Again, the language is very broadly similar to this version, though there was enough changes that it was easier to just adopt the companion language in its entirety. However, I recommend that we amend the ballot language to read as follows, quote, "Shall the Hawaii State Constitution be amended to authorize counties to issue housing infrastructure growth bonds to fund housing-related public improvements in designated districts, which are excluded from the county's debt limit and, rather than by increasing real property tax rates, are paid back only from future increases in real property tax revenues that come from rising property values within such districts." Members, questions, comments, or concerns?
Wait, what?
So we're amending.
No, sorry. What I mean is, if I felt like it didn't end in a complete thought.
Sorry, that was a question mark, but my tonal inclination didn't go up at the end. So that it's a big long question.
Oh, okay.
That would be the ballot language. It's a con am, so it has to go on the ballot. This is the ballot language. We're just trying to ensure that we are adequately clarifying what a housing infrastructure growth bond would do, so that people can make an informed decision on the ballot.
And payment, the cost is from taxpayers to begin with. And should something, so is that even in there? It's not even, right? It's just asking if they support the use of, or
it's clarifying that
using infrastructure bonds.
It's clarifying that it's, I could read the whole thing over again, but it's clarifying that it's not increasing real property tax rates. That the bond is paid off by future increases in real property tax revenues that come from rising property values within such districts. I think the confusing part about this in general is that people assume that this is a tax increase on them, but it's not. It's just directing future tax revenue from an area to pay off the bond. No tax increase.
But it could be.
If the county were to raise property taxes island-wide for whatever reason, but not as a
Or a
result of
loss.
this.
Sorry, or it could be a loss.
But as we.
So, as intended, the infrastructures are gonna, hopefully, beef up or add more to such districts to garner more real property tax. And should that not occur, right, you've taken away now revenues that could have gone elsewhere that would have been beneficial and positive impacts when this turned out to be a negative. So
And I think to your point there, the idea is that in these areas, there's either no property tax revenue coming from them currently, or, the bond is financed from future tax revenue increases from the infrastructure that you put in. The stadium district being a good example. 0 property tax revenue currently. So there's not gonna be any future growth there unless we put the infrastructure in. And then that future growth would get redirected for a period of time. So it's not redirecting revenue that otherwise would have gone to the county because revenue never would have come to the county if we couldn't figure out a way to finance the infrastructure. That makes sense?
yeah, I just think there's other means, but anyhow, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
No.
Oh, sorry, okay. Okay.
Yeah, just, yeah, move
Members,
on.
further questions, comments, or concerns on that? Alright, seeing none, Vice Chair for the vote.
Voting on SB 3219, the recommendation is to pass with amendments. Noting the excusal of Rep. La Chica, are there any reservations? Reservations for Rep. Herrick? Reservations for Rep. Moroka? Any no votes? No vote for Rep. Cochran, the recommendation is adopted.
Thank you. Final item on the agenda, SB 3218 SD2 related to bonds. I recommend that we move this out, and that we add, language to authorize the counties to issue housing infrastructure growth bonds, including conforming, clarifying, and implementation related amendments as necessary to effectuate that authority. So again, we did work with the AG, work with the bond council to get language to essentially implement, to ensure that the counties can implement these. So we'll be putting that language in the bill, and also defecting the date. Members, any questions, comments, or concerns?
Chair.
Yep.
And so, I mean, we had AG just this morning though, so it was not
I talked to them
addressed.
previously, yeah. This has been an ongoing concern with all these versions in that the original introduced version of this bill just allowed the counties to clarify that it wasn't included in their debt limit, but it didn't have implementation language. So we do a ballot amendment to enable clarifying the constitution that we can do these, but then the statutory language was not getting amended. So this statutory amendment required, extensive sort of back and forth to figure out what the implementation language would be in statute to ensure that these could be implemented, which the AG provided. So it was work that happened the last couple weeks.
And I'm sorry, but I'm sorry, I'm just trying to jump here to see about, there were 3 county people who testified in support, 1, 2.
I don't know.
Yeah, I was just wondering, that there was a collective or any input by counties, because it completely affects them.
And to be clear, nothing happens unless the county floats these bonds, right? So this is just giving the counties the authority to do this if they so choose. Thank you. Members, questions, comments, or concerns? Vice Chair for the vote.
Voting on SB 3218 SD2, the recommendation is to pass with amendments. Noting the excused absence of Rep. La Chica, are there any reservations? Reservations for Rep. Cochran, any no votes? Seeing that the recommendation is adopted.
Alright, thank you, members. Appreciate everybody for coming out today. This hearing is now adjourned.